Prabhupada ki jai. Taigo Premanandi Hari Hari Bo. We are going to be reading, continuing our reading. Kind of dark in here, is it? Continue our reading from Prabhupada's letters. Let me open this. See if this is better. It's cloudy outside. We have been reading from Prabhupada's letters, and what's interesting about that is they're letters, and it gives you a taste into what Prabhupada's letters are like. So I like that. I think that's nice. There's discussion about the importance of the books, the importance of the letters, and so on. But I think from reading these letters, we can see there's a lot of philosophy that Prabhupada's giving in his letters, and it's written. And you might say, well, it's not written in the books for posterity's sake, but it's written, which means it can be read by anyone, and it's not just spoken, just off the cuff, just a comment, but it's actually written as philosophical points. So I think we can take them in that way. So these sessions are giving you a little glimpse into Prabhupada's letters, which I think are important to read. I don't know if I mentioned this to you, but Prabhupada had mentioned book distribution 420 times in his letters. And in his books, he had only mentioned it 29 times. So the vast majority of instructions that we were given about book distribution came from Prabhupada's letters. Isn't that interesting? And it's similar for other topics. That there are many topics which are practical, organizational, managerial. And you'll find that in the GBC, and you'll find in Devotees' books there's a lot of reference to things Prabhupada said in his letters, because that's where certain topics are discussed, or discussed more elaborately. How he wanted things to be run, how he wanted things to be managed, how he wanted things to be executed. So that's interesting. So don't minimize reading Prabhupada's letters. You'll find it very, very valuable, and especially if you're a manager or going to become a manager or leader, or you have to lead anything, you will find Prabhupada's letters practical, because much of what Prabhupada was dealing with are practical things that all managers deal with. So, I mean, when I read Prabhupada's letters, often I'm dealing exactly with the same situation that Prabhupada's commenting on. And it's extremely helpful for me to see how he's dealing with it. And I made, in one class, I don't know if it was this class, I made the point that in our books make Shastric reference to this is the Siddhanta, or this is the Tattva about a particular topic. But then you will see in Prabhupada's practical life, or often in his letters, how he takes that topic and applies it. Because understanding something and applying it are two different things. You may understand the concept, but you may not understand the application in every situation. And so you get to see that often in Prabhupada's letters, and also in his own life example of how he's applying something. And we gave what I think is maybe one of the most graphic examples of this, that the principle that the sannyasi who falls down from the sannyas order should kill himself. And that's a Shastric injunction, and Junior Haridas did it, and Mahaprabhu approved of it. Of course, Mahaprabhu was teaching a lesson, but Prabhupada wrote about it, because this is what's in Shastra, and when Prabhupada was asked about it, he answered according to Shastra. Yes, this is what the Shastra says. He explained it a little bit and said, but we don't do that. Well, who decides that we don't do that? Who interprets that we don't do that? You interpret? It says in Shastra, you should go to all the sannyasis who remarried and say, listen, if you don't kill yourself, I'll kill you, because you're supposed to kill yourself. It says right there in the Shastra. You're disobeying Prabhupada. No, but then we see how Prabhupada applied it. Okay, this is what it says, but application is different. Excuse me for one moment. So, application is extremely important because you may understand the philosophy well, but not understand application of it, and that's a problem. I have to clean my lens. It seems like it's dirty, or something is cloudy, or I don't know what it is. My effulgence is not bright today. Now, that's better. Yes, so that's what happens in the letters. That's what we get from the letters, which is why they're so valuable. And I was a little late today, as often I am sometimes late because I'm reading something in the morning and I don't want to stop reading, which was the case today. And I also realized, just as I was walking out the house to come to my office, that I needed to make some tea because I'm trying to just get over the mucus. So I made some tea and ginger turmeric, and that's why I'm late. I shouldn't be late. I know that's not a good excuse, but anyway. Please forgive me for being late. Hare Krishna. So, we're going to begin reading. We're still in 1968, and one interesting thing about reading Prabhupada's letters is that you can see, in some cases, how he's dealing with a particular situation changes over time as he applies Krishna consciousness in varieties of situations, as he understands more about the devotees and the culture, as he can monitor the success of applying Krishna consciousness in particular ways. As devotees are maturing, taking into consideration all of these things, sometimes the application is changing, and you can see that. And you can understand, even if you don't understand the context, you can understand the movement is growing. It's becoming more complex. Prabhupada has more to deal with. He has more people managing for him. And he has more experience in dealing with the West and more experience with establishing the movement. And so sometimes the instructions start to change, become more liberal, more conservative, etc. We were saying last night in class that once a devotee in 1966 said, "Prabhupada, can I get initiated?" And Prabhupada said, "Who is Krishna?" I think this was Mukunda Maharaj. He said, "Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead." "Who are you?" "I am a servant of Krishna." "Okay, you can get initiated tomorrow." And then after the experience of many initiates leaving, then Prabhupada said, well, we need to be more strict. And it was 6 months, approval of temple president, asking the presidents to be more strict. So there's an evolution. And so I think that's useful to see. And I think it's important, as some devotees say, we don't want to make Prabhupada frozen in time, that as he was adjusting, we don't want to stop adjusting as is needed. Of course, adjusting sometimes can be dangerous because we don't want to adjust something that is not meant to be adjusted. But at the same time, we don't want to not adjust something that is now interfering with the advancement of a devotee or the advancement of spreading Krishna consciousness. So at least we can see that as Prabhupada was monitoring the movement, adjustments were being made based on what he was seeing was happening. How devotees were responding to different instructions and different services and so forth. So one of the things we can conclude is that to understand Prabhupada's instructions, it's not like just reading an ordinary textbook where something is just stated as a fact and you memorize it and now you understand it. Because understanding Prabhupada's instructions, it's not always so straightforward as it may seem. Some things are straightforward. I'm not the body, I'm servant of Krishna. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yeah, you don't have to go too deep to understand that. It's very clear right on the surface. But other things require maturity, require discussion, require thoughtfulness. And it may take many years to properly understand some of Prabhupada's instructions. So I don't think any of us should assume that we just read something, oh yeah, it's clear. In some cases it is clear. In some cases it will take more clarity, and we understand that even for Prabhupada, he was adjusting his understanding, at least of application, based on seeing how things work. And it's significant. And why it's significant is because Prabhupada wrote about this. And there was, as you may know, there was some controversy, or as they say in England, controversy, about women living in our temples, because that was not something that was done, at least not in Gaudiya Math. And Prabhupada did it because he wanted to give shelter to women, and he was criticized for it. And it was an adjustment, which he validated on the basis of Lord Chaitanya's mercy should be given to everyone. And so he made that adjustment, and what's significant about it is he wrote about it. He validated it in his books. He wanted to state it, that you have to adjust to the climate and the culture. And you can't artificially enforce one culture on another culture, which is totally different. And he wanted to make that point. And that point was, that point was based on his own experience. In spreading Krishna consciousness, he was seeing, okay, this is a different culture in the West. They don't think, they don't have this, like Indians, they don't have the same beliefs, they don't have the same lifestyle. So how can we adjust in a way that they'll take to Krishna consciousness? And that adjustment, you could say in some areas, it was a continual process. Some people question, how would Prabhupada adjust to the culture of the world today? How would he adjust to the preaching of today? We could speculate. I don't think everyone would agree. Some have a more liberal view. Some have a more conservative view. Some would say he wouldn't change anything. Some say he would because he did during his life. Others say probably that's true, but we don't know how. At the same time, we have to use our intelligence to understand what will be the best ways to reach people with Krishna consciousness, at the same time not compromise. But my point is that Prabhupada was doing that, and you can, at least in some areas, and you can see that by reading his letters, as you'll see the tone, sometimes the instructions change in later years from the earlier years. And of course, in the earlier years, there was more innocence, there was less knowledge, the devotees were more raw. As they progressed, Prabhupada sometimes became more strict, and that's also good instruction, that when someone is green in Krishna consciousness, you don't force a lot of rules on them. As they become more mature, you can give more rules. And so we see that. And so in this way, you can learn lots of things from Prabhupada's letters. Excuse me, I have to plug in my computer. You can learn lots about how Prabhupada preached from his letters. I think it's important. So keep that in mind as we're reading these letters. And we are in December of 68. Where were you in December of 68? Christmas vacation, 68. Better I don't think where I was or what I was doing. I am in due receipt of your letter of December 6, 1968, and I thank you very much for it. Just as you are thinking of me so often, similarly, you should know that I am often thinking of you also. At this time of ISKCON was really like a family, and we could see Prabhupada was dealing with his disciples very much like a father. It was very personal and very concerned about many things that he couldn't be concerned about later when he had so many disciples. So if you can remember to always remember Krishna and the instructions of your spiritual master, then surely this will bring the highest benediction to yourself and to those with whom you come into contact. To the extent we are thinking of Krishna, to that extent Maya has no influence. But as much as we are desiring to forget Krishna and trying to enjoy ourselves, so to that extent we must suffer the pains of Maya. So our remedy for material life is very simple. Simply to chant for Krishna, dance for Krishna, to work, prepare nice foods for Krishna, and then 10% we become fully free from all other influences. Please always remember this secret and show by example to all others. So this is nice, and this last sentence is nice. I'll read it again, and I've spoken about this a lot. So our remedy for material life is very simple, simply to chant for Krishna, dance for Krishna, to work, prepare nice foods, and then 10% we become fully Krishna conscious. I want to see if I have something I noted this morning. I don't think I have it, but there was a statement by Prabhupada about management, and he was saying to the managers that you should engage devotees in doing what they like to do. Like devotees should be happy, they should do what they like to do, and there's kind of a balance there, because we have things we have to do, which we may not like to do, and we have rules which leaders are supposed to enforce. So when you have jobs to be done, how can everybody do what they like to do? When you have rules, how can you always be really super nice because you have to enforce the rules? That's something for the manager to consider how to do. But the principle was that Prabhupada said the devotees make sure they're happy, they're serving in areas that they're inspired to serve. The basic idea was, in what we call now devotee care, ensure that the devotees are happy. And so if we're a leader, then traditionally with leadership, often with power, like as power rises, empathy goes down. It's unfortunate, but it's a reality. So you could see in a lot of Prabhupada's letters, he was really, he's trying to maintain the balance between leadership and empathy, between leadership and service, leadership and respect for those who you're leading. Because as you get power, there's a tendency for respect of others to go down. The desire to control them go up. And so we can see that Prabhupada had this mood of, no, if you're a leader, then your empathy should go up, your care should go up. Your concern that devotees are taken care of and they're happy, that should go up. Not concern that you're happy, and that's your main concern to hold, or your main concern is to hold on to power. That's not the way we should see it. And so I think that's another thing you'll get from reading Prabhupada's letters is you really see his concern for devotees and how he wanted to transmit that concern to his leaders. Like, this is my concern, devotees are happy, they're nicely engaged, they're inspired, they're not being manipulated, tyrannized, controlled, but they're being inspired to do voluntary service. That was Prabhupada's mood. And then in several letters, well, it could actually be this letter that I was quoting about, ensuring devotees are happy. And Prabhupada said, we can't force anyone to serve Krishna. And you might think, well, if you're the spiritual master, you can force them. And Prabhupada's saying, even himself, he said, I can't force. He said, because it's voluntary. I can ask, but ultimately it's voluntary. Even if the spiritual master says you must do this, ultimately it's voluntary. He can't force you. So Prabhupada was making that point that we understand as leaders that devotees are engaged voluntarily. We can't force them, and we should understand that. That's I think it's a very high form of respect for the devotee. That, Prabhu, could you do this? Would you be able to do this? Would you like to do this? What would you like to do? Is it okay? Are you all right? Do you need anything? Are you happy? Anything I can do? That mood. So, by reading Prabhupada's letters, you'll see that mood it's always there in his letters, concern. We have this devotee care initiative. We're 52 years after a lot of these letters were written, but we can see that was how Prabhupada felt and how he wanted to channel that mood to all his leaders. And so that's very important, especially if you ever become a leader. Because once you get power, there's this subconscious sense of entitlement, or the subconscious sense, I'm a leader, I'm better. And just because you have a managerial position doesn't change your spiritual status overnight. It doesn't make you better. It doesn't make you different than other people. It doesn't put you above them. And it actually requires that it requires that you ensure that you have sufficient respect and sufficient empathy if you're going to be a leader. Otherwise, it doesn't work. And devotees will feel it, and they'll lose their inspiration. And you might be sitting here thinking, oh, you're describing exactly what's happening to me. And I don't mean to say this as a means of let's get together and find fault with the leaders in ISKCON. I mean to say it for you. If you're ever in that position, then these things should be taken into consideration. Empathy, especially empathy, putting yourself in the shoes of others and administering in a way that is in their best interest, as far as is practical and possible. So, we have a question all the way from Amsterdam, from Jayashri, or Toshan, or both of them. How to deal with the adjustments being made nowadays compared then in Srila Prabhupada's days? For example, cooking and offering frozen or canned food to installed deities. Well, that's a simple question, because there's deity worship ministry, and they're in charge, or they're empowered to set standards. Now, if you live in a country where during the winter the only thing that's available is carrots, potatoes, and cabbage, there may be an exception to use frozen foods. Frozen foods are considered tamasic, and some of them are already cooked. But that, I think, as a general answer, you would want to go to experts in that field and say, you go to the deity worship ministry, in this case, and say, devotees are in our temple, or devotees are saying that we need to use frozen vegetables for these reasons, or it's okay for these reasons. What is the siddhanta on this? What is Prabhupada's opinion on this? They would have that. Or if it's another area, a question about kirtan, or you go to some of the senior devotees, kirtaniyas, what is your understanding? You can ask a few, get a rounded opinion. So your question also entails the need to maintain standards that Prabhupada established, along with the need to make adjustments for current realities. Are these realities different than the realities that existed during Prabhupada's time? If they're not, then you really have no argument to make an adjustment if everything's the same. If things are different, you say, well, Prabhupada gave this instruction within this scenario. We need to make nice offerings, we need these vegetables, but now the frozen vegetables are 1/4 the price of the fresh vegetables. We have a poor temple, we can't afford it, Are the situations different? And then you could discuss that with senior devotees and see, especially ministries that deal with this, and see what they say. General principle is if all things are equal, why would you change it? If this is like an established principle of deity worship, why would you change it? And Prabhupada once said that my fear is you'll change the standards of deity worship. He expressed that fear. So that's also to be taken in consideration. Now, some temples have made some adjustments due to lack of resources, manpower or money, and they reluctantly did it, but they had no choice. Very small amount of devotees, very heavy deity worship schedule, really taxing the devotees, some of them not be able to maintain their health, even their mental sanity. Or it was compromising other services that were also essential. And so in that case, some lowering of standards was allowed. But that was done in consultation with the GBC. So next question. You cannot find where I'm reading from. It is in my document it says it's on page 6. 6812. It's the last of 1968. Nadia from deep down in the south. Southern hemisphere. It's springtime there now, right? Sometimes it's hard to find that mood in leaders, as you can see them too occupied with other responsibilities. So they tend to be more in passion than in goodness. It's not general and neither for all leaders. But I've seen in some temples, being a leader is hard anyways. One should also help them as much as possible. Be grateful to them. Yeah, it's mutual. But I think if you ever become a leader, one of the indispensable ingredients of leadership is empathy and affection, compassion, whatever words you want to use. Because when people feel or see that you care about them, they're very inspired to serve. And if they feel you don't care, or you're exploiting them, or you're just treating them as a number, it's not very inspiring. And that goes back to Prabhupada's statement. This is voluntary. You can't force devotees. But if there's any way to force a devotee that I've seen is through affection. Because naturally, when you show affection to someone, they want to reciprocate for all that you're giving them. So if the leader is taking care well of the devotees, they'll be happy and they'll be inspired. And so it's a reality, for better or for worse, that leaders do have a lot of influence on how devotees feel. And a nice word can make them feel good. A harsh word can make them feel bad. A certain judgment can disturb them. A certain judgment can make them happy, can inspire them. I've been temple president 4 times, so I have a bird's eye view of this, of making judgments that inspire and making judgments that disturb. And sometimes you don't know that a judgment would disturb somebody, or you say something you don't know that it would be disturbing. But as a leader, you need to become aware of how your actions and words affect others, and you want to affect them. You want to affect them in a way, naturally they become inspired. So like you say, it is a tough job. If you become a leader, and sometimes you will, just by accident, it just happens. My best advice to you is, if you show care and concern for the devotees, they'll be happy. If they're happy, they'll do well in Krishna consciousness, they'll be inspired, and you'll have a nice temple, and devotees will be inspired to serve. And if they're happy, that's the best advertisement for the public, the best branding, You can take pictures of devotees and say smile and put them on a billboard. But better advertising is that they're actually happy, and people see that. Sebastian, next to Argentina, in Chile, what must be a priority when we chant japa? Is it better chanting our rounds during the morning, even when we don't feel like it? Like we're able to focus our attention for the entire session? Or is it better to chant in small groups of rounds, different times of the day? I think you'll have to answer that question, because generally the morning is the best time. But if you only have time to chant in the morning, then you don't really have a choice. You have to just do your best, even though you may be not able to focus. If you have a choice and you find chanting at different times or places is helpful, then that's a decision you can make. If you feel that you would chant better rounds that way, then there's no exact hard and fast rules, although Prabhupada said it's good to get your rounds done in the morning, because then you don't have this anxiety, I have to finish my rounds. So I usually leave those questions, japa questions, to devotees, as long as you do what will help you. Because sometimes you follow a rule, but the rule actually doesn't help you. Right? Yeah, this is the rule, I do it every day, but it's not helping me, so then you have to question. Maybe you have to make an adjustment. So we are attached to rules, but not so attached that they're getting in the way of a higher principle. Okay. So, So in this letter, Prabhupada said, to the extent we're thinking of Krishna, to that extent Maya has no influence, but as much as we are desiring to forget Krishna, and we've talked about this a lot, as much as we are desiring to forget Krishna and trying to enjoy for ourselves, to that extent we must suffer the pains of Maya. So that if you see it kind of like you're opening the door to Maya, and so when you're Krishna conscious, the door is shut, it's locked, it's bolted. And as you fall into Maya, it's like you take the locks off, and then you start to open the door a little bit, and then you kind of look out, is Maya there? And you open the door a little more. It's okay if you want to come in, I'm fine. So if you open the door to Maya, she's going to come in. She's just waiting to come in. But if you keep the door closed to Maya, or we could say keep the door open to Krishna, Krishna will come in. So who are you opening your door for? And in the discussions we've had on this topic, there's always this feeling that Maya is so strong. And Krishna says, Davyesha Gunamai, Mama Maya Duraya. It's true, Maya is strong. But Prabhupada's making the point that if you don't open your door to Maya, you won't have to deal with the strength of Maya, the power of her. If Maya is strong and impossible to overcome, then obviously don't invite her over. And Krishna's saying, if you don't invite her over and you invite me over, you'll be fine. You won't have to deal with her. But if you invite her over, then you can't overcome her. It's like, yeah, I know I'm not supposed to eat this, but I'll just take a little bit. Just take a taste. Then you eat the whole bag of potato chips. So, I know I'm not supposed to dabble at Maya, I'll just take a little bit, and then she can overcome you. So you have to know how to so-called dabble with Maya, so you can engage that so-called Maya in Krishna, so it's no longer Maya. But if it's just unadulterated Maya, and you invite her over, your door's open, you can't fight her. It's not possible. And we need to understand that you're not strong enough. Nobody. Nobody. But to speak of us. So, this is Prabhupada's point. You stay in Krishna consciousness, your door's open to Krishna, it's closed to Maya, you're okay. as soon as you slack in your Krishna consciousness, your door to Maya opens. So when she comes, you can't defend yourself. You're not strong enough. You know, the Bhagavatam, I always remember this verse. It's such an interesting verse. It said, you know, it describes the Kshatriyas. These very, very powerful Kshatriyas. And as you probably know, that the code of ethics for Kshatriyas is they would fight in the day and they would come home in the evening, you know, from a tough day at the office. After fighting in battle all day and killing so many people, they come home to their families for dinner. Interesting, right? Kind of like a sporting event. How was the game? That was pretty good. You know, I killed a bunch of people. Yeah, a few of my friends got killed. You know, we're doing okay. You know, we can't really relate to this. But these Kshatriyas were fighting hand-to-hand combat. They weren't sissies sitting in front of a computer, hitting buttons and sending bombs in unmanned aircraft. So, but the Bhagavatam says that they come home and they just see the beauty of their wives and they melt. So like this unconquerable hero, the whole world is bowing to him and he sees the beauty of his wife, and Bhagavatam says, and they bow to her for sex. So that's the power of Maya, that nobody can resist it. And then you have examples of sages who gave in to Maya in the form of sex desire, or they gave in to Maya in the form of anger. These are very exalted people, and it's just meant to show nobody can give in to it, what to speak of us. And at the same time, when we have the shelter of Prabhupada and follow his instructions, we're not being attacked by Maya, because she's just not, we're not letting her in the house. And that's the secret. And if you think you need to let Maya in the house, you have to let her in with Krishna there, so you can Krishnaize the Maya. And if you can't Krishnaize the Maya, just keep her out. Krishnaize your Maya. Maybe that would be the title of today's class. Krishnaize your Maya. But if you can't Krishnaize it, it will destroy you. And if you can Krishnaize it, then it's not Maya anymore. It's just something you like to do, or something you're fond of, and you're using it for Krishna, for his pleasure, for his service, to help other people. Then you've Krishnaized it. It's not about your personal ambition anymore. It's not about your sense gratification anymore. Then you Krishnaized it. You Krishnaize your Maya, so in that sense it's not Maya. Shantarupa says, Prabhupada said devotees are not scared enough of Maya. Yeah, it's true. Well, I think what Prabhupada meant was, we're not afraid to entertain a little bit of Maya. We're not aware of how powerful she is, so we're not afraid to entertain. And, you know, part of the problem is that when you're in that mood, Maya can cover you, so you don't even know you're in Maya. We're going to give a class later today. I'm not sure what time. Maybe it's 11 or 2. I can't remember. I have to look in. And the topic is going to be how to deal with bad habits. And one of the problems of overcoming bad habits is just to recognize you have a bad habit. So one of the problems with Maya, not being afraid of Maya, is to recognize Maya when she's actually controlling you. And if you don't understand when you're in Maya, then there'll be a tendency not to be afraid of Maya, because you don't know that you don't experience how powerful she is. You're not aware of it, or you're not acknowledging it. So that's a problem. Krishnaize your Maya. Today, Krishnaize your Maya. Okay, I'll write that down. We'll make a video. You know, you ask a devotee, hey, Prabhu, what's your favorite Maya? Interesting question, right? Okay, I'll ask you, what's your favorite Maya? And then the next question is, can you Krishnaize it? My favorite Maya, I love to blank, 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 blank. Okay, Krishna, I said, how can you do that for Krishna? I love to eat this. Okay, cook it for Krishna and offer it. And make it with devotion. I love to watch this. I love to read this. I love to... Can I Krishnaize it? And in some cases, you won't be able to. It's pure, unadulterated Maya, unKrishnizable. How can I Krishnaize my marijuana smoking? Sorry, Prabhu. All you can do is preach to other people who smoke marijuana and tell them to stop. So some things you cannot Krishnaize. Yeah. Well, Prabhupada said you could Krishnaize drinking alcohol. We don't recommend it for initiated devotees, but you can tell all the drunks, when you're drinking this alcohol, the taste you're drinking, that's actually God. So you can think, this taste is God because He's the essence of everything. Of course, if you're drinking beer and you think that taste is God, boom, God doesn't taste good. But definitely the taste of water. But Prabhupada said that you can tell the drunkards, that taste of wine, that's Krishna. Kirtan class is at 3. I think don't I have a class with Puerto Rico? Right up here. What time's the class with Puerto Rico? Puerto Rico. ¿Dónde? No. ¿Cuándo? When? How do you say when in Spanish? ¿Cuándo? Es clase con Puerto Rico. She's going to check. Yeah. Now, as far as Krishnizing Maya, Prabhupada has given a warning that it's a little dangerous. Cuando? When? Con Puerto Rico. Cuando es? 7 p.m. Oh, cuando? Tonight. Oh, tonight at 7 p.m. Okay. Then we have another class. This class, we're doing a program. We're doing a program in Kirtan, London. It's a webinar, 6 sessions for 6 weeks. So we're going to do a little bit of interview about the topics in that course. ¿Cuándo es la clase de Puerto Rico? ¿Cuándo es la clase de Puerto Rico? Puerto Rico. Just see, my Spanish is amazing. My daughter is so funny. She said, only a man would say that. A woman wouldn't say that. Oh, just listen to my accent. It's fantastic. She said, only a man would say that. And Prabhupada does say men have big egos. And men say it like, yeah, well, that's a good accent. I'm just telling you I have a good accent. What's your problem, Puerto Rico. Yes, I have a good accent in Espanol. So I'm just telling you the truth. That's proof men have big egos. They don't even notice that they have them. So, as far as Krishnizing Maya, then Prabhupada explains that you have to be careful. You have to be careful about it because it's not always easy to Krishnize Maya. And that Maya may be of a special variety that's so alluring and so attractive that you can't successfully Krishnize it. So you have to be aware of that, be careful. And, in the name of Krishnizing Maya, you get Mayanized instead of Krishnized. Mayanized? Mayanized. Did you Krishnize Maya or did you Mayanize Krishna? Yeah, maybe that should be the title. Did you Krishnize Maya or Mayanize Krishna? Yeah, so you might Mayanize Krishna instead of Krishnize Maya. So you have to be careful. For example, no hablo español. No hablo español. I'm doing a radio announcer's accent. So, Prabhupada often would say for the men, he said, well, better don't get married. Why? Why would he say that? And he said, well, because you're trying to Krishnaize Maya. Man is good, woman is good, they come together, potential Maya. Potential material attachment, sexual desires increasing, attachments increasing, desire to control increasing, all kinds of crazy things. So Prabhupada said, oh yeah, remain brahmachari, it's better, it's easier. But then you don't have to try to Krishnaize Maya because it's not always easy. And you might Mayanize Krishna instead of Krishnaize. Mayanize, yeah. My eyes, is it my eyes or Mayanize? I'm trying to Krishnaize Maya instead of Mayanize Krishna. Yeah, so you have to be careful. Mayonnaise, yeah, it sounds like mayonnaise. Mayonnaise. Prabhu, did you put any mayonnaise on this? You don't want mayonnaise, you want Krishnaize. Krishna eyes. Yeah, so if it's Krishnaize without the A, then it would be mayonnaise. That even sounds more like mayonnaise. Mayonnaise. We want to mayonnaise. Anyway, we'll use mayonnaise. They like mayonnaise. So that requires some expertise, as you probably all have experienced. So you have to be careful when you're trying to Krishnaize Maya, that Maya doesn't Mayanize you. Okay, so we have a comment, I believe. What Maya cannot be Krishnized? I don't think that was where we left off. Hold on. It's an interesting topic. We've got a lot of comments here. Ajanitai says, devotees say Lord Shiva was a devotee and thus should drink poison. Is there a limitation on how much poison we should drink? No, how much we should follow Vaishnavas? Yeah, don't imitate. Don't try to do something you can't do. Don't try to do something that would destroy you. So it's the same. We have these questions following. Well, how do you know? I think it was more of a Mexican accent. Lula from Mexico. Is that a Mexican accent? How to leave Maya with Krishna. Well, like Prabhupada's saying here, to the extent we are thinking of Krishna, to that extent Maya has no influence. Thinking of Krishna, serving the order of Prabhupada, following sadhana and so forth, and not leaving room for Maya. Don't leave room for Maya in your life, I mean, if you come home from work and sit in front of television or the internet and just watch mundane things, then you're opening the door to Maya. Now you can watch things which are helpful for your devotional service. That's different. But if you're just watching for pure entertainment purposes, you have to be careful. Or doing anything just to satisfy yourself, that's Maya. And doing something to satisfy Krishna is Krishna. So, but this was one of the first things that I understood when I was learning about Krishna consciousness. That one of the points they made very clearly was you should do everything for Krishna's pleasure. I didn't know practically what that meant, but all day I would think, okay, whatever I have to do, like I have to study, or I have to eat, or whatever, I would always think, I'll do this for Krishna's pleasure. I didn't even know what that meant. I was studying. How do I study for Krishna's pleasure? But at least I had that mentality. And so then as I learned about Krishna consciousness, then I understood what that meant and how to apply it. But having that mentality, that's what keeps Maya away, that I'm thinking how I can do this, that, and that, everything for Krishna's pleasure. Or even if you're just driving to go shopping, how do you do that for Krishna's pleasure? You listen to a lecture on the way. Right? You just make Krishna everywhere, surrounded by Krishna. Can't escape. Maya can't get in. Yeah. No, maybe I think it was the. Nadia's saying it's not an accent. I think it was the Mexican radio accent. Hola, amigos. ¿Cómo está? Ahora. Anuradha can tell me if that's the Mexican radio accent or not. That's what I hear on Mexican radio when I'm down there. What Mayas cannot be Krishnized in order to avoid being Mayanized. It's a bit of a relative question. Of course, some things cannot be Krishnized. Obviously, like we're saying, drugs, sex can be Krishnized, but drugs can't be. Rock and roll could be Krishnized if you don't get Mayanized in the process. But it will also depend on you, because let's say what one devotee can Krishnize, another devotee would get Mayanized by the same thing. So generally you want to Krishnize things which you have a natural tendency to do or like or enjoy, and you think, how can I use this in Krishna's service? Singing, writing poetry, writing songs, writing, painting, managing, whatever it is you like to do, you want to think, how can I use this for Krishna's service? And like we were saying, in some cases you may be so attached to just doing that you, when you get leadership position and you get control, it goes crazy, and you throw out the Krishna part and you just like drive all the devotees crazy, just trying to control them. So you didn't Krishnaize it with the other side, with the empathy and respect for the devotees. But another leader, he likes to lead, but he knows how to Krishnaize it. So he adds the other side to it. So it may be relative to the individual devotee's advancement. And so sometimes you'll see in Prabhupada's letters, he didn't allow devotees to do things that he later allowed other devotees to do. Because he didn't feel that that particular devotee was capable of Krishnizing it. And Prabhupada felt he would get smashed by Maya. But he would give another devotee an instruction to do that because he saw that devotee could do it. Or perhaps later on he would give the devotee the instruction to do something that he said not to do because he could see the devotee was more mature. Let me just pull this down. It's too bright. Beta. Beta. As they say in India, it's much better. So the answer to your question, Nadia, is that you're going to have to reflect on it. But I think this question brings up another point, which is the opposite side of this question, which is, I'll ask the opposite of this question, which is an important question. What things should I Krishnaize that I'm not? So then that talks about what we talked about. I think it was last night. We talked, or I forget. We were talking about suppression, suppressing a natural tendency. Yeah, I think it was last night. You should listen to last night's class. Translated into Spanish, but if you can tolerate, or you want to learn Spanish, then you can. But just as not being able to, trying to Krishnaize something you can't Krishnaize, the opposite fault would be not Krishnizing something that you can, or even perhaps worse, not Krishnizing something that you should. In other words, it's your nature, and if you don't Krishnaize it, it's going to be problematic for you because you'll end up doing it anyway, but you won't do it for Krishna. So if there's something in your life that you have a natural proclivity to do, and you don't Krishnaize it, you may just end up doing it purely for sense gratification. So then you get the other side of this question. Don't try to Krishnaize what you can't, but don't just assume something is Maya that could be Krishnized. And it could be of great value. I mean, there's two aspects of this. This is important. Okay, I'm getting fired up now. Sometimes I need it, like a certain angle on the philosophy to get fired up. And you could see I'm kind of mucusy, and my body's kind of, you can kind of tell it's running on low frequency. I haven't got out of first gear yet, and we're like an hour into the class. But there's two aspects to this question. The first one, as I said, that you have a propensity that if you don't use for Krishna, it could drive you crazy, because you'll end up doing it anyway. But there's another one also which is important, that you have a propensity and an ability that could be used for Krishna, and you're not using it for Krishna, and it could be of tremendous value, and you're thinking, why don't you use it for Krishna? Oh, I don't want to get, I know I'm good at it, but if I do it, everyone's going to glorify me, or my ego's going to go off the charts, or yeah, I used to do that, I like to do it, but for me it's Maya, I don't want to do it. And so Prabhupada said that is another form of Maya, that if you have resources, in this case intelligence, capacity, ability, and you're not doing anything with it, that's another form of Maya. Because it could be perhaps infinitely beneficial to the world if you did it and then you don't do it. And so Prabhupada said, that is not renunciation, that is attachment. Because you don't want to do it for whatever reason. Because I'm so detached, I don't want to do it. Because I like doing this, I don't want to do it, I'm detached. And Prabhupada's saying, no, you're attached because you're not doing it. Because this would be good to do for Krishna. It would help the spreading of the Krishna conscious movement, and you don't want to do it. It's like you want to stick to certain principles, but by sticking to them, it's going to minimize the preaching. That becomes an attachment. And so we have this story. Some of you know this story. I'll tell it again. My experience is if I don't say something 3 times, you'll forget it. If you hear it 3 times, you'll probably remember. Some of you will remember some things the first time, but it's hard to remember everything. So I will reiterate a conversation and give you a little ISKCON history, which will inform you of the history of devotees on Sankirtan changing from dhoti sari to shirt coat pant, as Prabhupada would say. Changing from our quote-unquote Vaishnav dress, and some people say it's not Vaishnav dress, but anyway, we'll use those terms. Sometimes Prabhupada used those. But changing from our traditional dhoti kurta, on Sankirtan, sari, choli, to Western dress, shirt, coat, pant, and skirt, dress. And there was a contingent of devotees that were adamantly against it because they thought this is Maya, it's a compromise, and it's kind of like we're stepping back into our material life, our karmi life, by dressing like karmis. Oh my God, you're Prabhu, you look like a karmi, you're wearing a shirt and pants. How could you dare do that? And we were wearing wigs because every brahmachari had a shaved head, and in those days, shaved heads were not attractive, and big sikas, devotees had big sikas, Big sikas were, were weird. Today, they're kind of cool, and a lot of devotees don't have huge sikas, but you can get away with it now. And so the opposition was thinking, this is a real compromise. They're going out in wigs, They don't look like devotees. Nobody knows there's a devotee. And if no one knows you're a devotee, you could do something stupid and nobody would know. But if you're in a dhoti, you can't do it because everyone's looking at you. Why are you stealing that candy bar? You're a Hare Krishna. But if I'm not dressed as a devotee, I can steal the candy bar. And if I get caught, it's like, well, I was hungry. Or I was going to pay for it. I was just going to my car to look for my money. So, and then there's not a headline, Hare Krishna steals candy bar. So that was kind of like the mood, right? And devotees found that they were distributing more books if they weren't dressed in dhotis, because it was easier to stop people, because people didn't know why you were stopping them. We're in a dhoti. They kind of figured, oh, he wants to preach to me. And so it was harder to stop them. So this big debate was going on, and Prabhupada was getting convinced by the opposition that this was Maya, wearing Western clothes. And it's going back and forth. Because it is our principle, if we can wear tilak, neck beads, dhoti, kurta. Yeah, that was the principle for brahmacharis, brahmacharinis, most of whom were living in temples, and this was about those devotees. So that's what Prabhupada liked. That's what he wanted. So this seemed to be a compromise, a drift from that. Even though Prabhupada said before, the men could wear suits, look like respectable gentlemen. But the opposition was saying they're just actually regressing. Excuse me. He said that we're regressing back into hippiedom. They're becoming like hippies. So Prabhupada was very concerned that we would regress back into those, because hippie means sex and drugs and long hair. And so if a devotee had long hair, Prabhupada was like, okay, you have long hair, it means sex and drugs, kind of like they all go together. So they were arguing this point, and Prabhupada was getting convinced. And so the opposition means the ones who were opposed to wearing Western dress. And so the devotee in favor of Western dress, or not even not, he was not so much in favor of it as he was just trying to explain that they're not becoming hippies. They're not doing it because they like, to dress up like ordinary people and like to look handsome with hair, and it's not that they're thinking about sex and drugs. So he was trying to explain that to Prabhupada, but opposition party had their arguments. And Prabhupada's traditional, he's strict, he likes things by the book. And then the devotee who was advocating the wearing or trying to explain why they were wearing Western dress said, Prabhupada, we're happy to wear dhotis and saris. It's not a problem if that's what you want us to do. But based on my calculations, that would cut book distribution in half. As soon as Prabhupada heard that, the argument was over. In 1 nanosecond, Prabhupada said, then wear Western dress. So my point was that Prabhupada was adjusting according to what would be best for spreading Krishna consciousness, and he wasn't attached whether we wear this dress or that or do it this way. We had, our temples were all houses or churches. And in India, you have a temple that's like a house with deities in it. People are like, what's wrong with you? You're supposed to have a temple and domes and this and that. In the West, it didn't matter. Temple deities are supposed to face east. In all our temples, did the deities face east? No. Excuse me. So Prabhupada had that detachment. That was his point. So sometimes you look at something and you'll think it's Maya and I shouldn't do it, but it could be Maya not to do it because it's something that would really push the preaching forward and that you're good at it. And just because you like some devotees say, oh, I don't want to do this because when I do this, I go crazy. I understand that, and that could be a valid reason to avoid it, but I would say at least try not to go crazy, because if you can do this, it would be a great service. But if it's just, I don't want to do it because I like to do it, and I don't want to do anything I like to do because it's not good for my Krishna consciousness, that starts to become the way Prabhupada would say it. No, that's your material attachment. to not do it, not your detachment. So we have two sides of your question. And so I hope you all understand. Mayonnaise. I'll make it for Krishna's pleasure, whatever it is. It has to be that way. I got the Mexican accent. Por favor. Mexico. I am on the radio in Mexico. Por favor. Holas, amigos. Because I grew up in California, so I got a little bit of that Mexican accent. What we were saying. Yeah, so I'll make this for Krishna's pleasure, whatever it is. It's kind of like your walking card out of Maya. If I just do this for Krishna, like my wife always says, I want to have a farm and cows, and we'll have exclusive vegetarian dinners and this and that. And she's always thinking about it. It's just something that she likes doing. And she didn't mention that when we were first married. She never mentioned that, but now she talks about it. So, all right, so how can we do that for Krishna's pleasure? So we invite people over, we teach them about Krishna consciousness, we show them about cows, and so it's something that she likes to do, but she does it in the context of service to Krishna. And then everything's good. And that's all Krishna consciousness means, is taking whatever it is we have and seeing how we can do this for Krishna's pleasure. Like, I like to do music, as you know, and for many years I was thinking it would be nice, and I'll be working on this a little, because now I have my studio set up. I didn't actually for many years have a studio. I kind of took it apart. It was outdated, and we got it upgraded. And I'd often think it would be nice to do nice music with shlokas, so devotees could learn shlokas. Because the music's nice, it's easy to listen to, and so they'd listen to it over and over again. By listening to something over and over again, you memorize it. Even if you're not trying to memorize it, you memorize it, right? So then I'm thinking, as a service, how could I do this to please the devotees? And so then it's like, we like to do music, but we're totally meditating on how to communicate something in a way that will please the devotees. So then it Krishnizes it, and then everything is good, and Krishna then becomes the center rather than us and our desire. So that's the point. Simple point, isn't it? So simple, nobody gets it. No, I think a lot of you already understood this, but we're just elaborating on this. Okay. Christy Gabriella is asking a question, but we lost it. Accidentally. Does a person who is new to Krishna consciousness need a guru to help them overcome Maya? Or will Maya always be there regardless? Everybody needs a guru. So Prabhupada's your guru. You've come to Krishna consciousness, Prabhupada is your guru. And people who are teaching you Krishna consciousness unofficially are your gurus. It may not be an official relationship, but they're your gurus. And at some point, you'll become attached to a particular teacher, and you'll think, by following this person's teachings, I'm becoming Krishna conscious, so I would like to have a relation and be more guided by that person. So yes, we all need teachers, just like I'm a disciple of Prabhupada. So he is my guru, and my godbrothers also will instruct me. So new, middle, or old, we all need gurus. And it's like if you're reading Prabhupada's books and you're accepting what he says, he's actually your guru, even though you may not be consciously thinking, because guru means teacher. And if you accept his teachings and follow them, he's your guru. And the same thing will happen as you listen to different devotees who are teaching Krishna consciousness. You'll start to realize that I'm learning so much from this one person, and I'm attracted to them, and I'm following them, and that actually he is my guru. So it's also a natural process. Now, will Maya be there if you have a guru? Yeah, if you don't follow the guru, definitely. But the theory is, if you follow Prabhupada, he'll just guide you out of Maya. Or if you have a guru, you follow your guru, and your guru is just trying to help you follow Prabhupada. Think of guru as a guide, and he's guiding you. He goes, Maya's there, walk this way. No, she's coming this way, go that way. Now she's overhead, run this way. So that's the guru. He's just, guiding you how to remain in Krishna consciousness. And then one thing you'll find, if you have that guidance, you'll be happier, because Maya has amazing power to make you miserable. And so by being in Krishna consciousness, you'll be happy. Shlokas and music, yeah. Maybe that'd be the name of the CD, Shlokas and Music. How to be aware what we're not Krishnizing. Something to start Krishna. How am I not Krishnizing something? Because I don't see Krishna in it. Like I was saying, sometimes the devotee may read something by an author, and the writing is so well, and the devotee's a writer, and he wants to improve his art, and he'll see Krishna's talent in this author. So it's not just pure enjoyment of reading, but he's seeing Krishna's talent there. So in some way you connected to Krishna. Like, let's say you like nature, and you see these beautiful flowers, or I don't know if this is true in Argentina, but like in South Africa or Mauritius in the summer, they have fragrant flowers that are so fragrant, you can be 6 feet away from them and you just feel this intoxicating aroma. And you think, whoa, that is punya gandha pratibhyamcha, that is the fragrance of the earth that Krishna talks about that. And just imagine, if this is the fragrance of the earth, which is Krishna's potency, just imagine his fragrance. So everything is reminding you of Krishna. The more Krishna conscious you are, the more things remind you of Krishna. And when you see this beautiful flower and you think, oh, that's such a beautiful flower, and you're just looking at it and enjoying it, what happened to Krishna? Where did he go? Just, this flower's so beautiful, look at this. And for a devotee, he sees a beautiful flower and he says, look at this artistry. That's Krishna who drew this flower. It's just amazing. You look at a flower, sometimes it's so intricate. So that's how a devotee thinks. It's just, the more Krishna conscious you are, there's no place where Krishna isn't. And the more in Maya you are, there's no place where Krishna is. That's pretty much the basic understanding. A devotee, just everything connects to Krishna. He sees everything. And just like if you've ever been with me, driving somewhere, I'll just be, if I'm not driving, that's when I get my rest. I don't know if you know that, but like when I travel sometimes I don't get enough rest. And we go on programs and I go, now I'm going to take rest in the car. So a lot of times I rest. That's the only time I have time. But a lot of time if you're with me, if I don't have rounds left, I'll be in the car and I'll just be talking about things I'm thinking or things I'm seeing, and I'll just see something. Oh, what's that? And I'll say, oh, they do this, and I don't think this is a good idea. I think it'll backfire because Prabhupada said this. I just try to you'll see how I'll connect everything in some way to a discussion about Krishna consciousness, or they'll be working on the road, and I'll think, Ugra Karma, they're working, it's the middle of the winter, it's 10 o'clock at night, they're working on the road, and Prabhupada talks about how hard people are working, and how to have the comforts in life, we have to work so hard. And you see all these skyscrapers, you imagine how hard people work to build that, how many people died in the building of that building. So this is kind of what we learned from Prabhupada. When we see these things, you just relate it to philosophy. So it's not always that you see Krishna's lotus feet, but you see the philosophy, and it reminds you, oh yeah, Prabhupada talked about Ugra Karma, horrible work. People are working so hard just to live. And you ever think like that when you're driving at night in the middle of the winter and it's snow and you see these guys working on the road and think, this is horrible. Or it's the middle of summer in Florida and they're working on the road and it's like nobody can be out in the sun. Nobody would want to be out in the sun. And there they are sweating and to drink gallons of water to do that work. So we think like that. And that's how Prabhupada thought. So that way you try to bring Krishna into everything. And Prabhupada said, he said we should be philosophers, so you always be philosophizing. So if you look at the world philosophically, so many birds here. We're feeding so many birds, and I don't know how we're feeding them, but they're all pretty fat. And I take credit for it. No, Krishna's feeding them, not me. But I was thinking yesterday, well, I must be feeding them. They live on my property, and they're all living. So indirectly, maybe I get benefit. But so Prabhupada was saying, back to the point of philosophizing, he's saying, well, we should always be philosophizing, looking at the world through philosophy. And that way you see Krishna everywhere and everything. It's such an easy way to Krishnaize everything. You just, people are working hard, or you see something and, somebody's, there's a guitarist named Van Halen, and he died yesterday. He was popular after I became a devotee, so I really don't really know who he is or listen to him. And then, the news comes up on my email and says, Van Halen, some say the greatest guitarist that ever lived. And now he's dead, and what is he? In his next life, we don't know. But, my initial thought is that energy that he put into becoming the greatest guitarist, if he put that energy into becoming a pure devotee, just see where he'd be now. He'd have gone back to Godhead. So that's just a way we take something maybe we're interested in, and we Krishnaize it. Or I was on the airplane, and there was this movie, I think it was called Iron Man. This guy, he goes inside this armor suit, big monster, and he's basically invincible. And it's like when you're on the airplane, it's hard not to see when there's like 3,000 people watching the same video, and everywhere you look, this Iron Man is like flying in the sky, destroying things. So I was watching it for a while, and my immediate thought was Balaram. Like this Iron Man's nothing compared to Balaram. But I started thinking of all the fights Krishna and Balaram had, and all these big demons they destroyed, and and maybe you're interested in wrestling, and you can think of Krishna, wrestling Chandra, Krishna and Balaram wrestling. In some way, you connect. In some way, you see the philosophy, and that way you can connect all the dots to Krishna. Maybe that should be the name. Connect all the dots to Krishna. So, Krishnaize only what Krishna likes, not what our mind likes. Not always. If it's only what Krishna likes, you don't have to Krishnaize it. It already is. Krishnaizing means it's not. Krishnaizing means it has the potential for Maya. So where it has the potential for Maya, it's like you like to cook. So you like to cook has the potential for Maya, that you just like cook all these amazing things and just eat them and, end up 100 pounds heavier next year and sick. But you like to cook, so you cook the Sunday feast. And you bring people to Krishna by your cooking. So now you're Krishnaizing your cooking, because your cooking in and of itself, unless you were cooking for the deities, you're cooking for the deities. That's like, it's already Krishnaized, more or less, right? But if you just like to cook, and then you learn about Krishna consciousness, think, okay, I like to cook, how can I do this? Or I think, I'm going to cook cookies and distribute them to my neighbors because I like to cook. Oh, so I can Krishnaize my propensity to cook, because I'll cook all day. If you leave it to me, I'll cook all day and all night. And I don't just want to eat everything I cook. So let me make prasadam, or let me sell prasadam, or let me give away prasadam. Let me cook the Sunday feast. Let me go to the temple and cook for the deities once a week. So Krishnaizing means to take something that potentially could be Maya and connect it to Krishna. Right? Just like Nadia, she likes to sing and play guitar, which for her could be big Maya. Big Maya. Grande Maya por Nadia. Posible. Es posible que música es grande Maya por Nadia. Pero si Nadia conecte conectar, conectivo. Anyway, one of those words is bound to be right. Con su música con Krishna después no es Maya, pero es Krishna. Krishna is. So if you didn't understand what I said is, for Nadia, music could be big Maya, but if she connects that music to Krishna, then it's Krishna. So it's those things that could potentially be Maya that you Krishnaize. And now because Maya means there's no Krishna. Okay, I do music. I could do music all day. Give me the guitar. I could play that all day. Where's Krishna? Oh yeah, I forgot Krishna. Yeah, that's the problem. You forgot Krishna. So now do that, but do that in chant or chant Sambhajan, chant a Mahamantra. Now you've brought Krishna into the equation of what like you like to do, so you've Krishnized it. But if it's something which is purely already Krishna, then you don't have to Krishnaize it because it already is. Like you don't have to Krishnaize deity worship because it's Krishna. Nothing but Krishna. Of course, you could Krishnaize your mind because you could forget that, but I think you understand it better now, right? Krishna Kanta says, Krishna Kanta also, music could be big Maya for her. Instead of studying blues guitar, I have been more into soul gospel R&B. Is that better? Yeah. We came up with a gospel song last night. I forget. Do you remember, Anuradha, what was that gospel song? What did we come up with? You remember the words? If you can use it in Krishna consciousness, Krishna Kanta, yeah. We came up with a good gospel song last night. I forget. I think it was something like life without Krishna is misery. Something like that. You remember, Anuradha? Or Nadia, if you were there last night, whoever was there last night, you remember that song? It was very much like something typical Christian gospel. Yeah. Without Krishna, my life is pain, suffering. Without Krishna, my life is suffering. Whoa. So why not? If you ultimately have to judge by the result. Is this helping spread Krishna consciousness? And if you like to do gospel and it's helping, then that's fantastic. If it's not helping, you may have to reevaluate it. Everything I do today for the pleasure of Krishna. Yeah. So, I like to do this. Let's do it for Krishna. Krishna steals candy bars? Is that what we say? Whoa, yeah. My Lord steals butter. Whoa, he steals yoga too. Whoa. Now you could write some amazing gospel songs. And if he's caught, he passes urine on the floor of their kitchen. Whoa, my Lord is amazing. Yeah, he is amazing. That might be a little extreme, but you get the idea, right? Yeah. Check the video for the gospel song yesterday. I can't remember, but it was good. Okay, so we read one letter, and that took an hour and a half to read one letter. That's amazing. Let's read one more. It may answer that question of how Christy was asking. A little more. This is January 1969. Where were you? What body? I don't know, Prabhu. What body I was in. Maybe we were together in the last life. Who knows? From your recent letters, I can understand that you are keeping yourself busily engaged and are improving nicely. This is our process. That you do not leave even 1 minute go by without doing some sort of service for Krishna. Doing some service or connecting connecting your work in some way, seeing everything in my office belongs to Krishna, the air, Krishna's providing, the intelligence to do my work, Krishna's providing, everyone here is spirit, soul, Krishna's in their heart, he's in every atom. Some way you see it like that. Because as soon as there is a little gap of Krishna consciousness, immediately Maya makes an attack to grab us again. A little gap. As soon as there's, watch out for that little gap, ladies and gentlemen. That's where you get into trouble. So keep up with your kirtans and outside engagements and always think of Krishna so that Maya will not have a second opportunity to try to conquer you. And Krishna gives all assurance that the sincere devotee will never know defeat. So if you simply try to propagate our movement in the Seattle area, you will be successful. Rest assured. Letter to Upendra. Watch out for those gaps. Okay, that's the subtitle. As soon as there's a little gap of Krishna consciousness, immediately Maya makes an attack to grab us again. Don't let Maya grab you again. Oh, that would be a good gospel song, Nadia. I'm not gonna let Maya grab me again. Not gonna let Maya grab me again. I'm not gonna let Maya. I'm not going to open the little gap for her to get me in her trap. No, I'm not going to let Maya grab me again. This sounds funny, right? But that's the kind of things that they sing in churches, isn't it? Similar to that. And then you would have to add to your song, not 1 minute going by without doing some sort of service for Krishna. Yeah. Maya, go away. I'm not going to let Maya get me again. Yeah. Similar to what we sang last time. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe we need to explain our philosophy through gospel music. Maybe it's easier to understand. Bhaktivinoda Thakur did that. And I don't know if you know this, but a lot of the songs Bhaktivinoda Thakur wrote were in very, very simple language, and the concepts were very simple, and it's how he preached. He'd go into villages and sing these songs, which, it is for us, we don't get the full flavor because it's not our language. So we're singing Bengali, and to us it's like very, like serious and serene. But in many ways, his songs were gospel. Wake up, sleeping souls, wake up. Lord Gauranga is calling. Wake up, sleeping souls. Wake up. Lord Gauranga is calling. While you are sleeping on the lap of Maya. It's like the same. That's what he's singing. You're sleeping on the lap of the witch called Maya. Wake up. Just take the name, it's the only alms I beg. You can create gospel songs, sloka gospels, out of Bhaktivinoda Thakur's songs. Because basically, now that I think about it, a lot of them are like that. Oath of freedom, ooh, free. Yeah, you can take the gospel melodies and then... Well, I'm getting this new keyboard. It'll automatically generate gospel melodies. Jib Jago also. Yeah. Jib Jago, wake up. English gospel, why not? Wake up, sleeping. Wake up, Lord Gauranga is calling. While you're sleeping on the lap of Maya. I've come to give you the medicine of the holy name. Take it with faith. We have to get the translation. Nadi's going to do it. And I'm going to teach her how to pronounce English like someone from the United States. So she promised that she is going to speak like a person from California, not from Argentina. She's going to speak English like a person from California. So it's not that hard. Not that hard. You can do it. Yeah, Nadi's going to do it, yeah. So She just ordered a microphone, and now she's getting a guitar. It takes a while. They have to ship it to her from the U.S., and she'll get a guitar, and she'll entertain us with gospel. Hare Krishna. Okay. So, I just have one last thing to tell you. Wake up, sleeping souls. Don't sleep on the lap of Maya. So we're looking forward to Nadia's gospel. And also, Krishna Kanta's gospel. She's going to do it also. Brazilian gospel and Argentinian gospel. Okay, fantastic. Now, today's Wednesday, so tomorrow is Russian. And then tonight at 7 in Spanish, and today at 3, I think, we have an interview. If you're all welcome to come. And then at 12 o'clock we have Japa. So you're all invited to the parties. The wonderful parties we have every day. Hare Krishna.